So let me just open it up to questions or comments. Yeah. And then you'll be next.
When you talked about having a free college education,
yes.
Would that mean if the government, would that be the extent of state schools, or would that include private schools as well?
You know, that's under discussion, and our thinking is probably is building on the model that we already have. And California really helped lead the charge decades ago by creating what was an almost free system of public higher education, a very affordable one. So it's basically that we want to start with. We want to start with that system of public higher education, ensure that it's free, and ensure that it's big enough to accommodate, you know, the large influx of students that will come when they do have an option for tuition-free higher education. That's where we would start. And then there's a larger debate about whether our tax dollars should also go to these private institutions that tend to have large endowments in particular. But in many states, it really is the public system that has become the real workhorse for higher education, and that would be the logical place to start. So you were number 2, and then number 3 back there, just to keep it moving around, and then number 4, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so, yeah.
Right, though it may seem blunt, but
yes.
it is a very pressing issue for
Please.
our generation.
Yes.
Do you support same-sex marriage?
Absolutely. Of course. It's a no-brainer. The question is, do we support, does the Green Party and do I support same-sex marriage? And I say absolutely, hands down. In fact, in the first campaign that I was ever a part of in 2002, my race was the very first race, certainly in Massachusetts, which was the first state to support gay marriage. I was the first candidate that forced the other candidates to stand up and support equal marriage. So I can say not only that I will support it, but that for a decade I have been advocating for equal marriage. Great. 3 was back there.
Or medical marijuana?
Absolutely, yes. And in fact, this is on the flyers which are being handed out. I support legalization of marijuana entirely. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh, yeah.
I support not only medical marijuana, and a word about that. As a medical doctor, I think, well, put it this way, I know marijuana is a drug which is dangerous because it is illegal. It is not illegal because it is dangerous. Got that? I mean, there are other perfectly legal chemical substances, particularly nicotine and alcohol, which are quite dangerous, and we know they are dangerous. When we made alcohol illegal, it became surrounded by a very dangerous criminal underground economy. And that is the case for marijuana right now. So the criminal underground economy surrounding marijuana is what is most dangerous to public health, and that is what we can fix by legalizing marijuana. So I absolutely support that. Okay, so now move. Okay, you were 4, and then 5, 6. We'll just work our way across the room. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then we'll go from there. Okay, go ahead.
I'm curious about the college.
Yes.
At the point when high school used to be all you needed to go to get a good job, then there was a second-level college.
Right.
People started going there in order to get a good job. So if the government starts taking over paying for college and everyone can go to college, isn't there just going to be another level that we have to go to in order to get good jobs?
Well, that's a really good question, and it raises the question, should good jobs only be available to some, you know, or should good jobs be available as a matter of course to most people? And clearly there are things that are going to require more training, and that's always going to be the case, and not everybody's going to want to go to more school. But I think as a civilized society, we want to be sure that everyone has an equal shot at basic security. And that's what we want to do with the college piece. And maybe the question you're asking is, what about higher and higher levels of education? And I would say that's an interesting question. We haven't gotten there yet, but let's at least start, you know, with a basic 4-year program of tuition-free college. That way, at least when you start your higher degree, you're not coming into that already saddled by tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. So we'll take it a step at a time, and if we have success with actually providing that and seeing what a benefit it is to the economy, in my view personally, education is a really good thing. And that as people become more educated, we become enriched as a society. So it's my own view that if we can achieve the first step and then go on to at least make then graduate degrees more affordable, that we should definitely do that.
Jill, just a moment.
Yep.
There's a sign-up sheet going around the room. Please keep it moving. Add your email if you want to be on our mailing list.
You know what, Rich, take another clipboard and just start a second one, just so that it'll keep going.
But please keep it moving.
Okay, and let's see. All right, so moving around the room. Yeah.
I agree with the stop climate change, like investing and creating millions of jobs and,
Yes.
and whatnot, but it's going to be expensive. How do you propose that we raise the money to do that?
Great, good point. And I'd say we'll come back to how expensive it would be, and it would actually be much less expensive than you would think, and we've begun to work through the numbers on this. There's several economists that have created models. In fact, I'll just address it right now to clear that question away, and then we can talk about other sources of revenue, because that always comes up. When you have a social program and we want to ensure that our schools are well funded and that we can bail out college debt, et cetera, we need to think about where the revenue is coming from. So let's address that. But first on the cost of the job. It's estimated that to create these jobs, first of all, it's about 25 million people that need full-time jobs now. And our intention is to create 17 million, and then you get another spin-off of about half as many jobs, again, are created by that first tier. It's a sort of a rebound effect. As you create jobs, people start to spend more money locally and other jobs are created. So what we have to create is that first pool of 17 million jobs. And the cost of that is actually less than the cost of the first stimulus package that Obama created in 2008. And the cost of his stimulus package was about $800 billion. This would be about $650 billion. The reason it doesn't cost a humongous amount is because this program would directly create jobs. The Obama program indirectly created jobs, which meant it gave a lot of tax breaks and tax incentives, but that didn't necessarily transfer into jobs. So it was a relatively expensive way to try to jumpstart the economy, but job creation was only a piece of that. So your average job created by the Obama plan costs about $200,000 per job, and in this program, the cost would be more like $20,000 per job. So there is a cost, but it's not nearly as big as you think, because right now we're paying unemployment insurance, and we're paying safety net insurance and Medicare and all that. But if people are working, then you don't have to fund the safety net. So the idea is take that pool of money that's supporting the unemployed and make sure that they have a good, useful job and use that money to help pay for that job. So it costs a whole lot less than you think. And then just briefly, where does the other money come from to fund the other things we want to do? One is by bringing the troops home and downsizing the military. We spend about $1 trillion a year on the bloated military-industrial security complex, part of which is used by the police forces now that are coming in under Homeland Security and really cracking down brutally on the Occupy protests. It's like the military force is being used against us right now to suppress free speech in a way that's very harmful. So we want to cut back on that big military-industrial security $1 trillion a year. If we cut our military expenses in half, we would still be spending more than any other country in the world. So we want to peel it back, and that would bring back hundreds of billions of dollars. We also feel like we need a fair tax system, that those who are benefiting most and the wealthiest few who are not paying, put it this way, who are paying less than their secretaries on their income because some of it is protected as capital gains or through various corporate loopholes or offshore, all of that needs to be equitably taxed. And we, in fact, should have a progressive income tax. So those who are most benefiting from the incredible social riches that our society offers, they need to pay in to that system in a way that they alone can afford. And our economy had this up until like the last 2 decades or so. And the economy never grew more than when we had a very steep progressive income tax, so that millionaires and billionaires were paying a whole lot more than people who were comfortable, you know, the upper middle class, etc. We need a really graduated income tax. It's the mythology that this suffocates the economy is completely false. If you actually look at facts and you look at the record, the economy has never done better than when the benefits were more equitably shared and the responsibilities from the top were more shared too. Thank you. Moving down, let's see. Okay, go ahead.
So you said that you wanted to fund higher education. But how are you going to do that? Because for your example of Cuba, you said they got rid of oil overnight. If we did that here, we would be losing billions and billions of dollars in tax revenue. Plus,
right.
When you're talking about the medical marijuana issue, you said you implied that you wanted to get rid of alcohol and cigarettes.
Oh no, not at all. No, if I implied that, rethink that. No, I'm not talking about getting rid of alcohol and cigarettes. I'm making the point that when we tried to get rid of alcohol, it created a terrible problem. It created a violent subculture. No, I'm not advocating prohibition of alcohol. That was a very terrible period in our history. I'm making the point that marijuana should likewise be legalized in the same way that alcohol is. Yeah.
Well, the oil, we're still going to lose tons and tons of money in revenue from that.
Great.
And then you want to fund the higher education system. It's going to cost $10,000 to $15,000 per student. Plus, you want to create a jobs plan and cost $20,000 per job.
So let me jump to what you're getting at. If you actually add up the numbers about what the cost will be, it will cost to bail out college loans. It will cost to make public higher education free. And it will cost also to deal with the housing foreclosure crisis. Bringing home the military alone and downsizing the military will pay for a lot of that. A single-payer health system, that is a Medicare for all that provides health care as a human right, actually pays for a lot of that too. If you look at our debt, the national debt going forward, a lot of that is generated by growing healthcare costs. And those healthcare costs, we call it healthcare inflation. We basically get rid of healthcare inflation and we stabilize healthcare costs by moving to a single-payer system. So that also generates a lot of money. Legalizing marijuana also generates money because it becomes a tax system. And actually moving to renewable energies generates money because right now, most of the oil we get is foreign oil. So that's money we send up and out of the country. But we know that for every job in the oil industry, as we convert to renewables, we create 3 jobs here in the renewable and clean energy field. So it's not like you cancel out energy jobs. In fact, you multiply energy jobs as you move to green renewable. And when you add up all the numbers, we actually come out ahead. If we did these things right, we would wind up with more money coming back than we are paying out. And I want to give you a chance. I know some people need to leave for another class, so thank you very much for coming. And stay in touch if you are interested in having a voice in this election. Thank you.
Okay, my question was,
Yeah.
how exactly would you provide legal citizenship for immigrants?
Hang on 1 second.
Can I ask my question?
Yeah.
How exactly would you provide legal citizenship for the immigrants, and what is your policy or the procedures you would take on securing our borders?
Okay.
And illegal immigration?
Yeah, great.
If I could have your attention, please. If we can have all seniors on senior fund immediately. Again, all seniors to the senior lawn immediately. Thank you.
So, it's important to look at the issue of immigration and what is generating the influx of immigrants when you want to think about how do we deal with the problem. Because you can treat symptoms in ways that are not effective at all. So we know that building walls and so on is not effective. It doesn't work. Building fences doesn't work. You can try to secure your borders, so-called. It doesn't prevent migration. And what we're looking at, basically, are migrations of people who are moving because their economies were destroyed. And it was NAFTA, in particular, the North American Free Trade Agreement, that created a lot of dumping, particularly of U.S. food, that destroyed the agricultural economies in Latin America, and particularly in Mexico. So if we want to, and migration is a stressful thing. It is a very stressful thing for people who have to move, and it is stressful for communities that suddenly have to accommodate big influxes of people. At the same time, I think it's important to affirm that people have economic rights and human rights that transcend borders, and part of our view of immigration is to view it as a human rights issue and to ensure that we are looking at immigration as a human rights issue fundamentally and an issue of economic rights. So we believe that demonizing immigrants or blaming immigrants for our economic problems is completely it's wrong. It's just plain wrong, and it is mistaken. Our economy crashed not because immigrants were here looking for jobs, because they tend to fill many jobs that Americans won't fill and can't fill and aren't able to fill. I think that's a problem. So that's part of how we combat it. Is to say that it's migrations that are stressful, and how do we reduce those migrations? We need to go back and rewrite NAFTA, basically, so that it protects workers south of the border as workers, as well as workers who have suffered enormously in this country on account of these free trade agreements, which have basically been exploited. Thank you.